It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome! Hey, everybody. Welcome in. My name is Chris. This is a thing that I make every so often with my mouth moving. What's going on? Thank you very much for listening. Please keep wearing a mask. I'm happy to be talking to you this week. I'm in Southern California where the weather is as glorious as ever, but a whole lot of people out there are not so lucky. I hope you're staying safe. I know for sure that I have a bunch of friends in Texas who've had a really rough few days. I hope you're making it through okay. For the rest of us, I've actually put a couple links in the show notes if you'd like to donate to some food banks in Texas to help some folks in need. We are... let's get through it. I think by the time, hopefully, you're hearing this, maybe the worst of the weather in Texas will be over, although I know the Northeast is now due for a storm as well. Let's all try to be as safe as we can be. We are certainly in one of the least newsy portions of the NFL calendar, which is okay. We all need to catch our breath and bathe ourselves in the random mysterious leaks that invariably crop up in late February, talking about the Deshaun Watson drama and the Carson Wentz drama and now maybe there's Ben Roethlisberger drama. J.J. Watt has actually already been released, and maybe he isn't quite what he was at his peak, but he's certainly going to improve any defense that he lands on. I don't know. None of that is quite news yet because we don't have the answers. We don't have the answers to the test. So this is the time of year on the show when I try to have us regroup and really figure out what we think of some of these players themselves rather than their situations. Over the next couple of months, we'll talk through free agents. We'll talk through, and that includes today, right? The meat of today's show will be about the free agent running backs coming up in 2021. And then, then we'll get into March and we'll begin into April. We'll talk about what we think of the college prospects, in all cases, kind of before they have teams. I think the theory being that we do better when we fall in and out of love with players before we can get to the point where we overemphasize situation. Note that I said overemphasize because situations matter. You hear me say it all the time. If you're a new listener, hi there. Thank you for listening. Situations matter. We don't go into any season with the belief that every team's going to be 8-8 and every offense is created equally until they prove otherwise. But we just aren't very good at predicting situations enough before seasons start to uncritically just sit there and go, nope, I'm sure these are the top 5 pass offenses. This is the best place for a running back, et cetera, et cetera. It always changes. We're always surprised, right? So prepping for 2021 begins in these February shows. And I think if you keep listening once per week up through mid-May, well, hopefully you'll have fun because I have fun doing it. And then, you'll have a decent footing for how I'll be going into the summer thinking about players, and also how the guests are feeling about players too, because they're smart and I'm not always right. Between now and mid-May, when I put out my first ranks for 2021, well, we won't talk about every player and every potential situation. That's what the almanac is for. I need the summer to write that. But, like I say, hopefully the fun discussions that we have here give you my lay of the land, which you can then filter through your own lens and decide if you agree or disagree. All right, so what's been going on with me? Since you're only hearing from me once a week and since I'm still very much quarantined, not that much is going on with me. Thanks for asking. Feel free to say hi to me on social media. Follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. I'm at Harris Football. I like human contact. It would be nice to hear from you. I have fun prepping these weekly shows. I've been trying to see family and friends still over Zoom. And then the rest of the time, oh, buddy. I'm writing. Feels like mostly what I do all day, every day, writing this very long novel that I've now been working on for more than a year. Started it in 2019. Remember 2019? That was great. That seems like a long time ago. back then I had to intersperse writing with doing crazy things like seeing Friends and stuff. Remember Friends? A long time ago. I there are some days when I do the word count, because every day I make myself do 800 words. That's the deal I have with myself. Once you do 800, you can stop smashing your head against the wall. So I'll do the word count and I'll see it reads 802 or something like that. And then I'll let out an audible yelp because I get to be done. The book is growing. It's not quite double the size of Tulsa yet, but getting close to that. It's now more than half the length of War on Sound. No stopping in sight. And people are like, "Hey, what's it about?" And I say, I don't know. How do you describe it? It takes place in 2050 in the U.S., 30 years in the future from now. And it's about a lot of things. I think one thing it's about is whether this drug exists and whether that drug can make people be totally functional otherwise, but also not be afraid of dying. It's also about a nuclear bomb that goes off. And it's also about camps where U.S. citizens have been locked away. It's about a lot of things. It sounds like I'm saying it's science fiction as I hear myself saying it. It's not. I don't know. Is it quite? Maybe. I don't know. Partly it is. I don't know. I think I like it. But I also am very possibly stir crazy and maybe just going crazy in general. I'm not that close to finishing it. But that's what I do every day of the week. And actually, maybe the best thing that I could come out of me rambling like this would be do you ever go to Goodreads? If you're at goodreads.com, follow me there. That would be wonderful. I would love it. Just search my name. You'll find me. I committed to doing more blogs and keeping what I'm reading updated, and also writing writing reviews of books that I have read. I just hit my double-digit number of blogs for the year already yesterday, talking about this Martin Amis novel that I love and just reread called London Fields. So anyway, I'll post stuff about writing. If you're interested in writing in general, interested in my writing, I'll post stuff about the new book. Come follow me on Goodreads, and you will pretty much know what is up with me if you follow me on Goodreads, which is not that much.
Today's kickoff.
Okay, that was an unexpected digression. I did not expect to do that. Coming up on today's show, there will be far less of me talking about what I'm writing and far more other fun things. I'm going to play a music digression, and I'm going to play a listener mixtape. I tend to try and like to use the off season to keep branching out and having fun with other stuff too. So when there's time on these shows, I will do those things. And then the main event will be my guest, Jake Ciely of The Athletic. And Jake and I are, in fact, going to have the aforementioned conversation about free agent running backs for 2021. I guess how we think about their careers to this point, how we think about their prospects in general going forward, where they might land, that kind of thing. Jake's a smart guy. It'll be a really fun conversation, and I thank you very much for listening today. I am always so happy when I get to talk about Burrow on the podcast. My living room is now basically a shrine to Burrow. They're a furniture company built from the ground up to make it a lot more affordable to get furniture that you love. Back when they started sponsoring this show, they just had sofas, and I love my Burrow sofa. You should really check out their sofas. They offer a couple of different collections now, and they're as nice as anything that you'd get at a high-end furniture store, but you skip the high-end price. And now they also have credenzas. They have side tables. They have coffee tables. And I just got a Burrow coffee table I absolutely love. I tweeted out a picture a while ago. Go have a look. The genius behind Burrow is that they are sending direct to you, but they've built all this furniture to be incredibly easy to put together. Just utterly no hassle and no tools necessary. And when you need to move, they disassemble and reassemble in a snap. And then you really just won't believe how nice it is. It's incredibly nice furniture. You're getting an incredible deal. Fast free shipping on every single order. Go have a look now. burrow.com/Harris. Use that URL. You'll get $75 off your first order. And you're sitting around like I'm sitting around. Hey, go look at some furniture. It's really nice stuff. Don't buy furniture without checking them out. Use that URL. Get $75 off. burrow.com/Harris.
Harris's music digression.
All right, so I cannot remember who told me about this song, where I found out about it. I don't know. Just like last week. I don't remember things. Everything sort of blends together. The song is from a band called Bully, which is Alicia Bognano's band that I've liked a lot. In the midst of the pandemic, I missed a release from Bully. I think it was June or July. And I'll play a portion of the first single from that record called Sugar Egg. The record is called Sugar Egg. The song is called Where to Start. I think I have a fairly wide palette of things that I like in rock music generally, but for sure Bully, you'll notice, falls into the power pop catnip side of things for me. You can follow the band at Bully. Please download the song if you like it. Downloading is what I always do. Downloading is how artists get paid money, at least some money, especially if you download someplace like Bandcamp. Right, Bully is on Bandcamp. Get songs from Bandcamp. The bands make more money that way. I wrote a book. I know a lot of musicians, and they've told me. Most of the songs I wound up playing on the show are on Bandcamp. I will put a link to Bully's Bandcamp in the show notes. Here we go. It's Bully. The song is called Where to Start.
Today's mixtape.
All right, well, that was pretty rockin'. Let's do a little less rockin' here, but still really funny and good. It's from Todd Gleason. It is a lovely homage to one Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Unfortunately, not a Super Bowl champ just yet, Mr. CEH, but there's always next year. Todd sends along a note about the Cajun Lawyer. He says, I know you're swamped, pun shamelessly intended, with Cajun Lawyer mixtapes, so I understand if I missed the boat. Another pun. I wrote this a few weeks ago, but only recently got around to recording it. And I have to say, if it's funny, Todd, it's never too late for a mixtape. This is a Hank Williams song called Jambalaya, and of course, Todd has changed it around the lyrics just a little bit. Thank you to Todd, and remember,
we want your mixtapes.
We do. Always we want them. I mean, sometimes the show gets away from me and I don't have time to play them, but I'll do my best, gosh darn it. Just make them funny. Send them to Harris at harrisfootball.com. Make them funny. Thank you again, Todd. I think this is Todd's third entry into the canon, as it were, but his first in a while. Let's play this. Here we go.
Bon ami, brinquez-y, bio mao. There's quelqu'un new from LSU on the bayou. When he hit his stride, he's a Creole slide like old Tom Sawyer. Fait beaucoup flair, Mr. Helaire, the Cajun Lawyer. When you go to trial, run 100 miles to any day phones. He'll prosecute them Okaloops with stiff-arm sentences. Like a jambalaya in a crawfish pie, they bring me joy. Le savoir-faire de Mr. Helaire, the Cajun Lawyer.
Today's guest.
Ciely talks, but he don't wear shorts even when it's hot. literally, unless he's boiling. He'd much rather be podcasting in blue jeans.
And I have verified that your friend and mine, Jake Ciely, is in fact podcasting in blue jeans. You can find him on Twitter at AllInKid. He works for The Athletic, and as it happens, this topic is going to be wonderful to talk with Jake about because he just posted a story on The Athletic about potential landing spots for free agent running backs. That's going to be our topic, but first I must say hello. Hello, Jake.
Hello, and yes, they're actually dark wash blue jeans to be specific.
Dark washed. That's is that like very of a particular era? Is that like very 2010s or something?
I don't know. They're just they're like the dark navy almost kind of wash, but like they have that. I'm looking down. That's why my sound might be changing. That where like around your thighs it like fades a little bit. I don't know. They're nice jeans. Whatever. I buy if they look good and they fit good, I buy them.
Nice. Mott and Bow. They're not sponsoring, but I'll just say Mott and Bow. They'll always do you right.
I meant to check them out since last time. I haven't bought any new jeans since last time, but my next pair will be.
Okay. Yeah, they're great. Alejandro's probably not listening, but if he is, like, he's like, I'm like the first place he ever advertised. He's a wonderful guy. Really love that guy. So like I mentioned off the top, it's not the greatest time for a lot of people right now, but hopefully we can spread a little fun and joy. What's better for us than to just get together with friends and shoot the breeze about football for a little while. And the topic at hand, as I have mentioned a couple times, is kind of a first take at free agency. We're not going to get signings until March, but we're starting to hear rumblings and leaks, and sometimes you can read tea leaves via leaks if teams or players are leaking certain things. So this is kind of a stage setter, and we're going to try to get through as many running back names as we can. And I think our goal here, just up front, and I'm saying this more for the listeners, is not really to go, oh man, he should definitely sign with the Jets. Like, there's some interest in that, and I think if you want more, we'll talk a little bit about fit and things like that. But my philosophy on that is, we'll know when we know, and what's the point in going, golly, maybe the Broncos are going to get that guy if they don't wind up getting him. Like, I just feel like it's kind of wasted energy. I'd rather spend more of our time, and I think what we'll do here is a little bit more of talking about what we think they've been in their careers, what we think they've been in 2020, what we think they maybe are, what might be misleading about them, what stats do or don't show, kind of like apprising their talent, and then maybe we'll worry about fit when we get to March.
Later.
Okay, that's my little preamble, and I'm going to start out. I'm going to go in rough order in which I think I don't know if it's even the right order, but I will say that the running back who intrigues me most is Aaron Jones. I think, would you agree, Jake, that maybe he's going to get the biggest contract and he's probably the biggest name at the position who's unrestricted?
Yes, I would definitely agree with you there.
Yeah. So we don't know if he's going to stick with the Packers. I think we're led to believe that he and his agent understand what I just said, that he probably is going to chase some dough, and maybe the Packers have A.J. Dillon in place and maybe aren't as interested in re-signing him and breaking the bank to get him, but they've made lots of nice sounds, the Packers have, this winter about how important he is, etc. I'll just start by saying I think Jones is a terrific player. I've been pro Aaron Jones. Like, when it used to be an Aaron Jones, Jamaal Williams, schism in the world, I was so solidly Aaron Jones after watching them play. I also don't know that he's a $12 million a year running back in my book. But I think he's very, very good. And I know a lot of people will laugh at whatever contract he gets just because he's a running back. I don't think I'll laugh at it, but I wonder where you come down on thinking about Jones after 2020.
I think the easiest way to put it is what I've said for the past 2 seasons for fantasy purposes. I always say, I love Aaron Jones, the player. I hate Aaron Jones, the Packer, because of how they use him. And you'll see him score, for fantasy purposes, 30 points one week, 7 the next, 10 the next, another 28, and then 13 and a 7. And it's Amari Cooper before he got Dak Prescott. At the end of the season, he's RB5. But if you look on the game-to-game consistency, it's very heavily weighted in 7 or 8 great games. And he's a great talent. I agree with you. If you said it's $12 million contract, I kind of agree with you per year. I think that 8 to 10. I can see that as in, if we were going on a grading scale of a 1 to 10 running back, a 10 being everything you could possibly want. I'd say I put him in like the 8.5 range. So I love the talent a lot. I think he can do everything. I think he's shown us with the Packers that he can do everything. It's just with the Packers, he's also been somewhat touchdown reliant because they just don't give him the ball consistently 20 times per game. But every time he does, he produces. And if you look at his numbers and you watch him play, it's not the Derrick Henry argument, but he's one of those running backs that, in the fourth quarter, when he's still getting these 20 to 22 touches, it's not all of a sudden he's wearing down. He's performing just as good in the fourth quarter as he was in the first quarter. So I think he deserves the biggest contract, and I kind of want him selfishly for fantasy purposes on a different team.
Yeah, I guess I get that argument. I mean, the coin flip argument, the other side of that coin is, sure, maybe someplace else there's consistently 20 touches a game for him, although he's a little guy, and he got hurt this year, and he also had the COVID list this year, but he was banged up a little bit, and there's an argument that says, please don't give him the Christian McCaffrey workload because he'll break. But if he goes somewhere where it's steadier, where I think I can agree with you on a weekly basis, sometimes doesn't feel the most steady, it's still maybe not a Packers offense where there are so many short touchdowns available to him. I mean, let's not forget 16 rushing touchdowns in 2019, which should probably not, no matter how good we think he is probably not typical for a dude who's whatever he is, whatever you really want to call him, 5'8", 5'9", 208 pounds, wink, wink. I don't think so. More like 200. He's a littler dude, and he's really, really talented, and definitely, like you said, more of a 3-down guy. And in fact, I might argue the most frustrating thing about Aaron Jones is the extent to which Jamaal Williams has been used as the 3rd-down receiving type back. And maybe the thing that we don't know most of all is whether that's because Jamaal Williams is simply that much of a gamer and that good in pass protection that Aaron Jones was sort of just never given that chance because, darn it, there had to be a role for this other guy, or whether Jones himself has real deficiencies in pass pro that are gonna limit him on 3rd down no matter where he goes.
And that's a valid concern to have. And I think that you bring up a good point too. We don't need 22, 25 touches every single week. I just think that if we got a carry situation where it wasn't, oh my God, he only got 10 carries this week. He only got 11 carries this week. What the heck is going on? And I know that offense didn't always need him to. You're talking about Aaron Rodgers and what he did this year. But just if you told me, can I get average 17 touches every single week and keep that with a lower standard deviation where, can I get 15 to 19 instead of 10 to 21? Can we stop with that? I think that would be the ideal scenario.
Yeah, I'll just say, Jamaal Williams, also an unrestricted free agent. They famously were in the same draft together. Unless you feel differently and you want to have a long Jamaal Williams conversation, I feel comfortable in saying basically the only place he ever has value is in Green Bay. If A.J. Dillon's the starter and they sign Jamaal Williams to play 3rd down, there's a chance for him in PPR to have some weird surprising, but otherwise, I just don't think he's that good.
No. Unless another team out there wants kind of what the same role he has now and put him on that team, sure, whatever.
So let's do Chris Carson then, because that was a weird leak. The fact that, I guess it was Seattle. I guess it was the Seahawks themselves saying they didn't expect to be in the sweepstakes, and that's a weird one. I don't think. You can tell me, did you view that as an explicitly the Seahawks saying, sorry, this is too rich for our blood?
I can see it, and to be honest with him, most of the time, not most of the all the time, I'm for the players getting the money because it's the NFL. It could be gone tomorrow. Go get it while you can. Your career could be over tomorrow. At the same time, I understand we're in a different scenario this year than we've been in some time. The cap going down and all that stuff. So I think that if the Seahawks did leak it, then where I'm going with this is, I hate to say it, but it was kind of smart for them if they want to bring him back because they are out. They're probably out at 10 million plus. And Carson, in his own right, look, go try. If you can get 10 million, get it. Go ask for it. I'm not faulting you for it. But if they can only want to give 8, and this is the only team that really wants to give him 8, going right back to the Seahawks is a great opportunity. So it wouldn't surprise me if they leaked it. And like I said, I understand if they did.
So, Carson's a good player. And, people on the show know that I think he's fine. I think he is a better player than his athletic gifts should probably merit. And the way he does it is by being unbelievably physical. I think I don't have them on a continuum in my head, but if I were just sitting here BSing with you, which news alert I am, and I had to list the most physical running back in the league, I think I'd say Chris Carson. On every single run, he's trying to dislocate his own hip, getting an extra couple yards, and unfortunately,
he gets banged up.
Right? Unfortunately, sometimes succeeds, and so I mean, kind of that's where I have been with Carson for a while now. Maybe it gets to our philosophy of whether we're willing to take chances on injured players and whether the market is pricing them in. It's always felt to me like the market never prices in the idea that Carson's really got a chance to get hurt almost any single game he plays. And I'm the one who often will say, oh, man, the market's overvaluing this injury and Joe Mixon's going to go too low because people are too scared of XYZ. But and maybe this will be the year where Carson does come at a discount because people finally saw him, only get 140 whatever carries. It strikes me that if I could get a healthy Chris Carson season, I understand that I'd be getting, wherever I draft him, I'd be getting value because he's a beast, but I'm scared of him.
And it's certainly understandable for you, for everybody, for teams to go back to the Seahawks. You're definitely right. It's part of his own problem is he asks for the contact and then he gets it. And that's why the fans love him, though, is because he does beast. Very actually similar in that mold to Marshawn Lynch. But I do think he has a little bit better lateral movement. The good thing I like about him is that he doesn't even always get to the edge, but because of his power and his I don't know if anybody ever out there listening watched Futurama, but there was an episode where they're flying around and he's staying there and his entire body's moving, but he's holding a cake in place. Like, that's how I picture Carson, because you can hit him in the legs and somehow he just stays, like his upper body didn't move. It's like he stays level somehow. And that's what I like about him. I'm not putting him quite on Aaron Jones level, but that ability puts him in a good situation for a lot of power running. And I think he's good fit back with the Seahawks or any team that wants to use him like that. But the downfall is going to be what you said. The downfall is going to be he's so powerful, he asked for the contact, that getting 16 games out of him, for us personally as fantasy owners, are going to just sit there and say, oh, geez, that's probably not what we're going to get. We're probably going to get 13, 14.
It's so rough because it doesn't feel to me, although I'm a terrible assessor of the market, but it doesn't feel to me people are, let's say Chris Carson goes out and signs with, who were a couple of the teams you were suggesting he might land with?
Chris Carson, I want him to go back to the Seahawks. And I said, if not, maybe you look at another scenario where I said, if the Seahawks don't bring him back and they want to try this Rashard Penny thing one more time, let's do Rashard Penny again. Sure, whatever. We'll then replace Connor, or bring in Connor to replace Carson, and then send Carson to Pittsburgh. But the problem with Pittsburgh is their salary cap isn't the prettiest either. So, yeah, I'm just going to go back to, I think this best scenario is just to go back to the Seahawks for fantasy purposes.
So my thing is just like, I'm trying, if he goes to, I don't know, the Jags or something, he goes somewhere where we don't expect immediately the offense to be like, wow, then okay, maybe there'll be some situational leavening of his rank and it'll get more rational, and I might be more on the side of, okay, I'm taking on an injury risk, but for a 5th round pick, I'm willing to do it. It's just, that isn't ever how it goes with Chris Carson. People always seem to just kind of land on the rosy side, like, oh hell, they're run oriented. That dude's gonna get 300 touches, and boom, he's a 3rd rounder. And I go, it's not like it can't work out, because I don't think he's terrible at all. And especially he fits the profile of someone, he lucks into the right situation on the goal line. Holy cow, that guy should, he could score double-digit touchdowns just from the one if it happened to work out that way. But it just feels like I'm never going to be on the right side of the market with Carson.
No, I'm with you on that one.
All right, so you mentioned James Conner. I'd maybe put him next on the list. It feels like that market has really fallen out of love with James Conner. And I've said this for a long time. I don't think Conner and Carson are all that different. If you wanted to tell me there's a little more juice in the lateral agility for Carson, it would for me, it would have to be a little, because Conner doesn't have a lot, but I don't really think Carson has tons either. Every so often he'll make a guy fall down, but a lot of times for me, Chris Carson's running into tacklers. It's sort of just, I'm not going to avoid you, I'm going to run into you. And that's definitely Conner's thing. Conner's thing has also been getting hurt and having a pretty amazing backstory to even be in the league, right? Talk about, potentially not even having a career because of cancer. I'm probably more excited about Connor than I am about Carson relative to where they're going to be priced. I'm guessing, depending on where they land.
And I am for kind of what I was just talking about with the Seahawks scenario, is that if it's a team that takes the value and ends up in a scenario like that, because it's funny. I don't know if you heard me chuckle, but when you said, I don't see too much difference between Connor and Carson, that was actually legitimately my first sentence was going to be that with James Conner. The one thing I will say, and where I'm a little hesitant about what James Conner can offer at this point, is watching him this past year. So initially, what I felt about Connor was similar to Carson. And what I always said about him is you get to that second level and there's two types of linebackers, which just basically sounds like it covers both, but you'll get what I'm saying. It's like, if they're speedy linebackers, he's not getting away from them. Right. If they're trucking linebackers, he's probably not taking them down. Like, he's not winning that. He gets the guys in between. And so the point is, he's talented enough, but that he's talented enough to beat most linebackers except the elite, which is fine. You know, a lot of running backs can't do that. But once he gets to second level, he's just not often going to break away. But he could at times, because of what you're talking about, for the ability to separate. But I think he's lost that with the injuries this past year. Like, I just didn't see him being able to even escape like somewhat quick linebackers. And that's my concern, is that have the injuries taken so much a toll on his legs that all of a sudden James Conner is just not even James Conner of what made him good with Pittsburgh. So I'm with you. I think a team can get a discount on him and potentially fall into somebody who, if they both played 14 games, Carson and Conner have very similar numbers, but I don't know that he's 100% of what he used to be. And I think that's going to be in the back of my mind.
A quick break to say, I bet you're on an awful lot of screens. Phone, tablet, computer, TV, Kindle. It's a lot of blue light. My heavens, I'm on screens probably 12 hours a day minimum. And I personally noticed that my eyes did not feel great on that many screens. I think you know where I'm going with this. We are sponsored today by Felix Gray, and if you get headaches or dry eyes or blurry vision or have trouble sleeping after a long day of screens, I can personally recommend Felix Gray glasses. I'm wearing them this very second as I make the show. I always wear them when I'm on screens. And I have noticed a real and tangible difference in how my eyes feel. Felix Gray glasses filter 15 times more blue light from screens than other clear blue light lenses. And Felix Gray also now has sleep glasses that relieve serious daily eye strain and were specifically designed for that sneaky late night screen time to help you sleep better. If this is you, if you're on screens all the time, seriously, try them out. They're reasonably priced. You can get them in prescription or not. And if you don't love them in the first 30 days you have them, send them back and get a refund. Plus, shipping is free. Go to felixgrayglasses.com/Harris, FELIXGRAY glasses.com/Harris. Check them out now, felixgrayglasses.com/Harris. Okay, we're back with Jake, and we are talking about these running back free agents. Next on the list, I'll give you Kenyan Drake, who talk about someone. I mean, I guess if you do a podcast long enough, Jake, you have a tortured relationship with a lot of players, but you want to talk about somebody who I've had a tortured relationship with, because Kenyan Drake was a flag player of mine his last year in Miami and wound up having a nice statistical season, but it was an utter terrible call, disaster. Great. You scored a bunch of touchdowns randomly, a couple at a time, and otherwise had no yards. And so I was really pretty much off. I mean, I really didn't want people taking him in the second round with Arizona this year, and I feel like that was vindicated. And so I don't know. I'll just kind of give me your state of the art on what you think Kenyan Drake is actually capable of as a football player.
So I'm 100% with you on that. I'm pretty sure we had that conversation before the season started. And so we're both on that Kenyan Drake situation. And for anybody that might not have listened, and I don't even know if I said it back then, but whatever it might be, Kenyan Drake for me is somebody who, look, I think he's elusive, but I think he needs to be in an offense that creates misdirection from the defense. And I think that's why it worked with Arizona, because of the RPO, because of what they do with their offense and the motion beforehand. Because if you get the defender even just a step off balance, his agility helps him win. But if you're asking him to take these guys on head first, make the cut on his own with these guys just barreling down on him, he's going to miss a lot of those opportunities. And we've seen him miss a lot. I think he needs an offense that helps create confusion.
Like, people are going to point to, hey, almost 1,000 yards rushing. And I'm just going to go, did you watch it? There's seldom dudes. I mean, I'm not going to try to sell you that Kenyan Drake has a power back's body. He doesn't. He's, what is he, 210, 215? I mean, he's a bigger dude. I mean, if Christian McCaffrey can run over somebody, Kenyan Drake can run over somebody, frame-wise, right? But there is just something about Kenyan Drake that he does not want to hit it hard. He's always looking to make a move. There's some Tevin Coleman in him. I don't see it. I kind of think maybe the bloom is off the rose and no one's going to spend big money on him, and maybe coming back to Arizona is a possibility. He played this past year under a tag. Am I right about that?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he did. That's great prep work by me. But like we remember the Cowboy game, right? Of course, it's all about the Cowboy game. Week 5, 6, whatever that was. National TV game, goes bananas, has the long run, has 2 touchdowns, has mom, like he makes fun of himself, quoting his mom on Twitter. My mom finally told me to decide to run hard, and I finally did it, and then stopped doing it the whole rest of the year. It's again, run hard is such a cliche that when I worked at ESPN, I made fun of people for saying run hard all the time. They're all trying, right? It's just that his instinct to me is always elude rather than break a tackle or hit somebody, which isn't about toughness. It's more about just sort of how he's wired. And I just don't think he has enough elusiveness, like you said, to actually. It just seems like his whole football life, he's sort of athletically been more than the sum of his parts.
Yeah, and that's why he struggled with the Dolphins, is because, and part of it was their play calling, is they ran just a lot of off guard between tackle to the left a lot, but they were just asking him to be kind of more of like, hey, break a tackle, get some extra yards, and he wasn't doing that because that's just not his style. Yeah.
So, I guess, yeah, we're going to see where he lands. We're going to get, once he lands somewhere, we're going to get a lot of justification about, well, now, sure, now he's featured, or now he's, I just think it feels an awful lot like Tevin Coleman going to the Niners and everybody going, well, here we go.
It's funny you said Tevin Coleman, because I said put him on the Falcons and take that Todd Gurley touchdown dependent role and watch everybody go, yay!
Right, but then have him not actually fulfill it, and then some other dummy like Jamaal Williams signs there, and everybody's like, by week 8, people are like, I love this Jamaal Williams cat. I got him in the 12th round. Yeah, so the player, like, I'm definitely not down on Carson if he were healthy. I just think it built into his act is him not being healthy. So my point is here, I'm not trying to be negative on everybody. I like Aaron Jones a lot. James Conner, is just going to be valued a lot lower. And I think Drake's going to be valued lower too. I can see Kenyan Drake's a world-class athlete in terms of, wow, a person that size can run like that. Like so it can work. Just if he hits it right, but all right. A former very early top 5 overall pick, number 6 overall pick, Leonard Fournette. It would seem that there'd be incentive for him to go back to Tampa, but then again, Tampa's got a lot of people to sign. I mean, we're going to talk about wide receivers next week, and Chris Godwin's got to sign or get the franchise tag, and Levante David's a free agent. And if I were a team builder, I would probably prioritize both those players over Leonard Fournette. Did he win you over? Is playoff Lenny? No. Is he a superstar now?
No, he is not. Leonard Fournette is the same thing he was if he was the Jaguars. He's volume dependent. It was somebody who, surprisingly, you look at him, and it's funny, you could say the same thing we were just talking about with Drake. Run hard. Somebody tell him he can break tackles, because he doesn't. What I don't understand why Leonard Fournette's not breaking a tackle. Maybe it's just if you watch him, you see he kind of takes it too head on. I don't know. Maybe he thinks he's Chris Carson and he's going to bowl somebody over, but he really doesn't use his agility as much as he should. He doesn't make as many moves, like a spin move or a stiff arm or jump cut or stuff like. It just seems like he's, what it kind of like reminds me of, like Jordan Howard. He's above average. He kind of just goes out there and runs, and if he's on the right team that's going to get you some push with the offensive line, he's going to be productive. Hello, Tampa Bay. And you're going to get what you get from him. And if you give him 250 carries and another 40 to 50 touches in the passing game, you might get close to RB1 value or even RB1 value in fantasy, but he needs that. Otherwise, he's not doing it on his own.
Which is which is a very the analysis that we employ when we talk about a player like that is like, well, yeah, I think most running backs, if I gave them 300 touches, they would be RB1s.
Right. But that's why I said Jordan Howard. Because for years I've said you can find me 20 running backs who do what Jordan Howard does.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the point. I think both of our points is you shouldn't do that, NFL teams, and the Buccaneers clearly decided they were not going to do that. They clearly took a look at him when they got him and decided nope. And now Bruce Arians has the homespun anecdote of he almost cut him because he was whining so much about his playing time in December. David Montgomery would be another analogy to me. Like, sure, yes, if all the sticks collapse in such a way that David Montgomery is going to wind up getting 300 carries, which he did in this past year, then I'm not shocked. He can do that, right? Fournette's an interesting case in your Athletic article when you were talking about potential landing spots. I mean, on the one hand, he had some pretty big statistical seasons with the Jags, and he was a very high first-round draft pick. On the other hand, it feels like it's been years, and it feels like maybe to some degree, the scales have fallen from everybody's eyes. Like, he's a bit player. You can't really rely on him, whether it's personality or whatever, lack of physicality. When you were projecting with the Athletic column, did you have him landing someplace as a feature back?
No, and the why I put him on the team that I put him on is I put him on the 49ers because he doesn't need to be a face because again, the article is purely what's the best case scenario we can get for fantasy. So throw him on Fournette or throw him on 49ers. We know Shanahan has this magic wand, which still nobody's been able to figure out, and he doesn't need 20 touches every single week because if Shanahan can turn Tevin Coleman and Jerick McKinnon and Raheem Mostert and just go Jeff Wilson, all these guys down the list, he can do the same with Leonard Fournette.
We're sponsored by Roman today, and they want you to know, ED, it's a sensitive subject. Most importantly, you're not alone. There are a lot of guys who have ED. It's a medical condition like any other. It might feel like you're alone, but you're not, and Roman can help. They've created an easy way to get checked out by a healthcare professional online. You can get diagnosed online and get real medication shipped direct to your door. No waiting rooms, no awkward face-to-face conversations, and no uncomfortable trips to the pharmacy. Go to getroman.com/Harris, fill out a brief form, chat with a healthcare professional, and if they think treatment is warranted in your case, you'll get FDA-approved meds delivered in discreet packaging. Plus, if it's your first time ordering from Roman, you'll get $15 off your treatment. And everyone gets free 2-day shipping. If you experience ED, you can feel relieved that you're not alone, and you'll be glad that you tried this because Roman can help. For that free online visit, go to getroman.com/Harris. That's getroman.com/Harris. Okay, we're back with Jake, and we're going to go through, we've done, I think, the biggest of the names, but actually there are some big names to come, but maybe just guys who aren't in their prime anymore. Let's do 3 veterans at the same time, unless we find a compelling reason as we start talking, which we probably will, to treat them separately. But they're veterans who've had great fantasy glories in the recent past, but not in 2020. Todd Gurley, free agent from Atlanta. Le'Veon Bell, free agent from whichever team he wound up on, I can't remember. And free agent Mark Ingram, who got cut from the Ravens a year after being a real success story in fantasy. Ingram maybe does stand apart because he's going to be 32. Gurley and Bell theoretically shouldn't be at the end, but I don't know, especially Bell, shockingly, just seemed like he had nothing left. Do you imagine that all 3 of them will be in the league next year?
I think they will be. I'd say if I had to choose one that wouldn't, it'd be actually Mark Ingram, just because now at this point, in the fact that the Ravens essentially healthy scratched him for a while there down the stretch.
Right.
There's been some talk about the ties to the Giants and backing up Saquon Barkley, and maybe we get to somebody's hurt, a draft pick doesn't pan out, and we get around to that time where they start picking those kind of guys up. But I think Gurley and Bell will. I said this in the article. I want Gurley to retire, not because he doesn't have anything left, because he kind of doesn't have anything left, as we just saw. When he came back from injury, he looked awful. And that's the thing. Selfishly, I don't want to watch him anymore because I want to remember the good times. I want to remember the good days of Todd Gurley. I don't want to watch the broken down version, just like I didn't want to watch Michael Jordan on the Wizards. I want to remember the good days. So he's still young enough, but the legs are shot. I'm with you. I'm surprised Le'Veon Bell didn't do more. And just maybe the fact that he's more shot than we thought he is. But I still think somebody will take a chance on Gurley. Somebody will take a chance on Bell. Yeah, I could see like the Adrian Peterson backing somebody up on like the Lions or something like that. But if you told me, like I said, if I had to pick odds on which one isn't, it would probably be Mark Ingram.
I think I agree with you there. It's funny, if I were going to show you film of these three players from 2020 and find the best plays that any of them made,
he looked best.
It would be Gurley. No, it would be Gurley for me.
Before he got hurt.
I even think after he got hurt, I think the fact that he was hurt meant that he was always hurt, right? I don't know the moment when we decided, okay, now it's broken down Gurley. I think,
2018.
Right. I still think there would be 3 or 4 carries a game where you'd go, okay, Todd Gurley, all right, well, that was a nice move or a nice little acceleration. He was like saving something. He would. It seemed pretty clear to me there were carries where he was just like, I'm going to fall down now. And then some was like, okay, something's here, and now I'm going to accelerate. But there's no more damning piece of evidence for Gurley than, yeah, good run, buddy, 9 yards, sit down. I just think
yes.
he just wasn't. All the concern over his knee that's come over his entire career. Even when he had, when he was the best running back in the league, people hated him because they thought his knee was going to explode. Well, it seems like it's, finally come true. Even to me, even if the peaks weren't the worst. I don't know. Falcons fans tweet me. I'm not sure if you agree, but I'll say, just when you see a team treat a player with kid gloves like that, even after what at least I viewed to be decent run, good run, go sit down for a quarter, like that is a giant red flag. Whereas I would struggle, and I did struggle over the course of the season, to come up with any Le'Veon Bell plays that I thought were impressive.
I definitely agree with you there. That's why I thought you were going to say Mark Ingram, because I don't remember anything. Le'Veon Bell doesn't stand out in my mind of doing anything this year.
Sure. And it's a very fair point to say the Gurley who would sort of just through attrition, just we're going to give it to him again. Go ahead, stop it. We're going to give it to him again. Go ahead, stop it. Like that dude who we loved because he was never the fastest and he was never the jiggiest. He was never like juking people out of their shoes, but just again and again crushing people and then finding a crease with great vision and all that. That was volume. That was something that needed volume in a way that Leonard Fournette probably was never going to get. I'll go through some quote unquote lesser names, more niche type players, but I don't know, Mike Davis in let's face it, pretty much a full starting role for 13 out of the 16 weeks or something with Carolina. Is he how do you view him coming out of that? I was a fan beforehand. I thought he was good in Seattle, frankly. How did you come away from the Carolina season evaluating Mike Davis?
I think I'm with you. He's been a fan. I've been a fan. The preseason even said it might be one of the most underrated signings, overlooked, that type of situation. So I'm with you. I do like it. I don't know that a team's going to give him too much more of an opportunity for this, but it would seem to be, hey, like the Seahawks, again, to go back to rumors, the Seahawks are rumorly interested in bringing him back. Like, I don't know why the Seahawks are putting out all their information for everybody to find out. But I think that he's going to end up with a backup job. I don't see anybody bringing him to be the lead guy, but he'll be probably one of those more priority backups where you're going to know in fantasy. You're going to say 12th, 13th round, I'm going to draft him because in case one of the running backs, whoever he's backing up, gets hurt in week 1, 2, or 3, he's going to be the one to go after. Maybe you drop him because the person doesn't get hurt, but he would be one of the higher priority backup running backs in fantasy for sure.
And maybe not even a backup, because there are certainly like unclear platoons that develop where it's Mike Davis and somebody, but it's somebody who we don't love. And it's like, who's the starter? Maybe it's that other guy, but they're both going to touch it. The Rams sure didn't use anybody regularly until Cam Akers kind of burst out there at the end. So I agree. I think Mike Davis is going to be draftable. So I've got Marlon Mack on the list. Who is that? You just don't like him even before he got hurt?
Even before he got hurt. My biggest issue with Marlon Mack is he tries to do something he's not. He's always been, just go run straight ahead, knock a few guys over. You're not quite Chris Carson. You play like Chris Carson, though. And I'm not telling, just don't take guys head on first. But stop trying to dance. Stop trying to jump, cut, and wiggle and spin around and then lose 4 yards. My draft profile about him, I even said sometimes a 0-yard gain is better than running around in a circle and losing 4 yards. Like, just stop, dude. You are not Tariq Cohen. Stop. And that's why I say bluff, because he wants to be, and it aggravates me.
Well, he's not Tariq Cohen. That's fair. And I actually thought that characterized his 2018 more than his 2019. I thought he got a little more direct in 2019 when people had started to kind of get over him, and we never got to see any of what this turned out to be. But God, can you imagine if he hadn't gotten hurt with the hell that Jonathan Taylor owners were put through for much of the first half of the season, when all I could, I was doing film on the YouTube channel going, I don't think Jonathan Taylor stinks. Here's some evidence, and people being like, screw you, he's ruining my season, he's ruining my team. Like, can you imagine if Mack had been there? Holy moly! Like, we might have gotten all Marlon Mack. The big question. I like Marlon Mack 2019, okay. But the big question is just, that's a really hard injury to come back from. It's a torn Achilles, right? And that's a really hard injury. So wherever he signs NFL-wise, he's going to come at a discount, and he's certainly going to come at a discount fantasy-wise, and we'll file away the name. Among other players that I have on the list here, I've got James White, pure passing back. I've got Malcolm Brown, pure not passing back. I've got Matt Breida, the godfather of troll, who really had a huge opportunity as everybody fell by the wayside in Miami and absolutely did not take advantage of it. And then Tevin Coleman. Yeah, the aforementioned Tevin Coleman. So among like White, Malcolm Brown, Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, I can't even, none of them are going to be signed as anything other than ancillary players. Do any of them strike you as, okay, in the right spot, that guy for fantasy, I'm going to be interested?
Not a single one. Tevin Coleman was on the perfect opportunity because he was with Shanahan. As you mentioned, Matt Breida had the opportunity and didn't get it. And then when the brief time that he had a few chances, didn't show anything. Again, that's why I said there's your red flag. Malcolm Brown, as you mentioned, third down running back, maybe get some goal line carries in the right. I don't even care. And then James White, pass catching. Maybe if James White ended up with Tom Brady again, throw him just bring them all to the Buccaneers. Why not? But yeah, all these guys, very, 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 if not no interest in them.
Right. I need 75 catches from James White, or sorry, we're not talking. We're not having this conversation. I mean,
pretty much.
I bless Denny's heart. I'm going to have Denny back on. Everybody loves Denny, but the whole James White is an RB1 now conversation from a few years ago, just we need to stop. I'll just mention before you go, there's a couple of restricted free agents. We've got Philip Lindsay is the one I'm interested in. There's also Gus Edwards, who's a restricted free agent. RFAs almost always come back to the same team unless they just flat out have burned their bridge. But Lindsay's just a great little player who runs really hard also, and probably also will get killed if he goes anywhere else. But I we'll keep an eye. Edwards to me is completely a product of Baltimore. Anywhere else I wouldn't be nearly as interested. All right, Jake Ciely. Well, I'm glad to have caught up with you here in the deepest, darkest pit of winter. If you would like to follow Jake on Twitter, I would love it if you do so. He's at AllInKid. He writes for The Athletic. He just wrote up a bunch of these guys and their optimal fantasy landing spots for The Athletic. You will stay in our minds forever in blue jeans podcasting, and I appreciate you doing it, my friend.
Yeah, when we're back in however many weeks, and the next time, I'll be in blue jeans.
I'm sure he will. Thank you for listening. I'll get to your snarky email in just a moment. Let me also thank today's sponsors. We had Burrow, Felix Gray, and Roman, 3 wonderful sponsors. If you have the means to use the promo codes and URLs of any of our sponsors that you can find at harrisfootball.com. That's how this whole thing happens. They don't keep coming back just because they like the sound of my voice, as incredibly appealing as it is. It's because advertising works on the show. I'm not on commission. It's entirely about how many folks use the promo codes and URLs. So if you have a need and you have the means, thank you very much for all your support.
Time for your snarky email.
You know what time? That's right, Robot, tell you it's time for some snark. Hey, listener, stop what you're doing. Send in the snark and just keep it humorous. Yo, listener, stop what you're doing.
I mean, it's right there in the song. Stop what you're doing. Send some snark. Just make it humorous. Send it to heyharris@harrisfootball.com and let me know where you're writing from. Okay, so I haven't done snark for a while. I didn't do any, I don't think, since the new year. And so I'm catching up. These are all old. These are all old emails, but they're good. And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry, but I'm lame. And my time management with guests isn't often as sharp as it needs to be. It was better today. Jake was keeping me on the stick, actually. It was good. So here we go. Carl Kemmerer, Orange County, New York. Hey, Harris, you have a list of mixtapes on your website, which is great, but have you ever thought about putting a list of Robot Talia drops on there as well for download? Like when I toss my wife the remote and she drops it, a great duck hands would be perfect. I'm sure that would go extremely well for your marriage. Chris Harris, not you, from Denver, Colorado. Hey, Harris, thanks for another great season. You're the second best Chris Harris I know. Sincerely, Chris Harris, not you. Casey Cheney, Southfield, Michigan. Hey, Harris, I'm concerned that no one is talking about the Mitch Cackle trademarked sign. He laughs like a Muppet gremlin in an 80s movie that was very clearly made while the entire crew was on acid. In my opinion, it's at least as important as his intro. I think I agree. Peter Evangelikis, my friend from Washington, D.C. Hey, Harris, since this is a podcast about watching film and watching babies, I had to share this recent experience, which I think is an accurate description if you think about it. It's pretty much just about a podcast about watching film and watching babies. Peter continues, my parents sent me hours of my baby videos, which I passed along to my girlfriend. She has watched the footage in its entirety and now regularly sprinkles her scouting report observations of my baby film into our conversations. Apparently my nod has remained the same, but fortunately I am less averse to wearing pants. And then it goes, quote, strong stop hand, but the go knee is very slow. A real baby David Montgomery. David Lang from Parts Unknown. Hey, Harris, you've done it again. You spent 99% of your podcast using correct diction and grammar and real English words, but on, he said, today's podcast, it was sometime in December, when discussing T.Y. Hilton's upcoming rank against Pittsburgh, you slipped, and in doing so may have coined a new position, wide retriever. Genius. You've spent some breath this year reminding us that tight end should not be a fantasy position and audibly gasp every time when you say he's part of the wide receiver 3 in the infinite sadness. Now you have stumbled upon two solutions in one. Cut out the tight ends in all leagues and replace it with wide retriever, where T.Y. Hilton, Emmanuel Sanders, and Tim Patrick can find their natural home contributing between 1 and 37 points on a weekly basis. If you like this idea, blink twice during your next podcast, or maybe just replace your wide receiver 3 in the infinite sadness nomenclature with this brilliant new position moniker from time to time. If for no other reason, do it to spare your lungs. And finally, Thomas Walker from Parts Unknown. Hey, Harris, the other week during your Film Futures, or whatever it's called, on TJ Hawkinson, you mentioned some liken you to a tight end whisperer. As soon as you said this, my wife giggled uncontrollably. I immediately knew that despite your warnings, we indeed drove off the road into the gutter. This show is so stupid. No argument with any of that. This show's pretty stupid. And I appreciate you, and I'll try to keep the snark bag going, so I'd love to hear from you. Hey, Harris at harrisfootball.com. That's going to do it for this week. Coming up next week, we're going to do it again. We're going to talk about some more free agents. This time it'll be wide receivers. It's a very interesting wide receiver class. I briefly mentioned Chris Godwin in the conversation with Jake, and he's certainly going to be foremost among the names that we are interested in speaking. I think I know who my guest is, but I don't have 100% commitment. Haven't heard from this person for in a while, so I don't have a total commitment. I don't want to commit right now, but I think I know who it's going to be, and I think it'll be pretty fun. Until then, thank you again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You are incredibly awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you next week.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.